Queen of Pain picked up for 2-base. They also get the Willow there with that 4th pick. So they are going to have quite a bit of lockdown between the Bane and the Willow, two of the supports that they sort of picked up well, the most in the DPC. So that's going to give them a little bit more comfort to work with, maybe take some of that pressure off, give the Queen of Pain more room to operate. Honestly, kind of the same stuff we were saying about the Puck in the previous game. Obviously, that did not go fantastically for Ryoya, but they are looking to get him maybe a slightly better and I'd say more aggressive setup. That was the problem. Ryoya took 1 or 2 deaths early on in that previous match, and it just seemed like any sense of momentum was gone.
Yeah, and that's also where, unfortunately for Arkosh, this Dark Will pick feels really nice. I think Flea is going to be able to be a little bit more defensive in his lane. I think the big issue with that bottom lane in the previous game was just that, unfortunately for Fleet, he's laying with the Centaur. He can't get very aggressive on a ranged carry. He struggled to really find any footing. His levels were pretty bad as well. Now with the Mars, at least he can play a little bit more adjacent to his side laner. He can play a little bit more up-tempo. Not to mention, it's the perfect counter pick for this kind of dog pile idea where the Terrorize is just going to be so effective versus these heroes. PL, though, that's your 1v5. That's your change up here where you need to put Forsaken Oracle on the Dawnbreaker 5, see what you can get out of the lane with this PL, and it is a very good PL game. They've got nothing for him as of this moment, and they can't really go back to fix it with their carry matchup in too many nice ways. Unfortunately for them, this is kind of a slam pick here, and it's why you really talk about it. Second pick is still just as good as it always has been. What can you now solve here with Ollie's hero, or do you just kind of have to bite it and then pick something to maybe try and take the buildings away? Immediately you think of a hero like the Leshrac, but then you really are all in on this tempo. Svenban, perfect, another good comfort hero for Ollie, but they need to get something to actually play in this counter matchup. Otherwise, it's just going to be a farm fest, and I think that's where Arkosh, they might slide back into that 4 protect 1 style that they kind of shed off in game 1, so we'll have to see if this is following them back into bad habits, or if it might actually work this time with kind of a confidence shattered 2-based.
Yeah, and as you said, that 4 protect 1, it was the means by which Arkosh got their lone 2-match victories in their DPC run. They allowed Pale Horse to just sort of build himself up and run away with the game. So you have that to think of. However, those 2 wins were also counterbalanced by 13 losses, something around that number. So it's a strat that has worked for them in some cases, but a lot of the times it's not exactly guaranteed. But in this scenario, they're feeling pretty good about themselves, and as you mentioned, a lot of pressure now onto Ollie's hero pick. What can you take? Because you have 3 or 4 boxes here, ET, that you have to sort of tick off, and you're really only going to get maybe 2 of them at best with any particular pick.
And I'm really racking my brain here for what Ollie's going to actually want to play. Of course, in the past, he's forced himself to play what I mentioned before, the safe lane Leshrac, just kind of have any matchup versus the PL, gives you a little bit of tempo, not to mention it plays pretty decent versus the Nature's Prophet, but at the same time, you put yourself on a pretty hard timer there where suddenly going late versus the PL is not really an option. You have to play really tight Dota. You have to play very clean Dota, that same kind of denial that Arkosh did to 2-based in the previous game, and it poses a lot of questions that sometimes you're just simply not able to answer. Not to mention, you have a natural healer on Arkosh. So if you do pick a hero that doesn't have just that immediate burst damage, why the PA was such another fantastic ban, because suddenly you might not have enough damage to actually finish him off. And anytime this PL gets out by just a sliver of HP, it's a massive win. Because yet again, 2-based, they're less cooldown reliant, but they still have those big abilities where suddenly you're not comfortable making a play anymore because you've got another 60, 70 seconds where you can't find a kill in the side lanes. It's something that now they still have to be a little bit beholden to. And I do like it's a little bit more up-tempo, but this is an archaic pick. This is really, really old.
Yeah, the Tiny in the position 1 role, it had a brief resurgence, really what, a couple months ago in one of the previous patches, but didn't quite stick around in that position. And as you said, the actual heyday of the position 1 Tiny is quite a ways behind us. But if you're 2-based, I mean, you needed something, right? You needed the damage, you needed the AoE, you needed someone who could absorb some sort of hit. So it does tick quite a few of those boxes for them. Meanwhile, for Arkosh, they are going to run Forsaken Oracle on that Disruptor again. So it worked out incredibly well for them in game 1. They're going to run it back.
Yeah, and He does have to be very cautious, of course, with heroes like the Queen of Pain and the Tiny. There is a chance you just get popped. You just die immediately. You can't really do much about it, but at the same time, you've got Monkey, I think, holding down the fort in the mid lane, and it is a matchup they can play. Queen of Pain doesn't really like playing versus the trees all too much. You do just kind of get beat up a little bit. And at the same time, if they can keep that kind of tempo forward lineup, the nice thing about this disruptor yet again is you're playing versus a support duo in very similar fashion to game one that you're just able to run at. You're just able to force them to retreat away from you. If you bring the numbers, then you get those freebie kind of glimpse kills kind of time and time again. At the same time, you got a hero on the Mars as opposed to the Centaur where sure, Mars can turn on you with his ulti, but every single time you don't find him with that ulti, he's not as tanky. He's an initiating offlaner, so that's another easy target that you're going to be able to find with the glimpse. And again, it's that leadership where Forsaken Oracle is able to pull heroes back constantly in these fights. He's able to keep those fights going for so long. I think really the biggest switch up right now in this draft is the Gremlo's on a Spirit Breaker as opposed to a Weaver. So he's a little bit more locked in. He's got a little bit more of a difficult job because you are a melee 4 position. You're not able to get nearly as cheeky. There's a lot of questions, honestly, on both sides. These are very, very different drafts. The biggest guarantee I think you could have right now is that Ryoya is going to have a much larger impact in this game. He's more of a heavy hitter, big damage dealer, and he's got that incredibly obnoxious, almost broken shard that he can definitely play around.
Yeah, it just feels like he has maybe a few more tools to work with the Queen of Pain compared to the Puck that he was playing the last time around. But, well, we'll have to see. Simply TOOBASED with their backs against the wall a little bit here. Obviously, there is a lower bracket here in Phase 1, so even if they do lose this second game and the series by extension, they wouldn't really be in the biggest amount of trouble. They're not going to be eliminated today by any means, but that is not exactly the thought process that you want to have. That's a silver lining that they would rather not think about, because it's much better to lose Dota, to win Dota than to lose Dota at the end of the day. I know I'm dropping crazy wisdom on you folks, but they want to get themselves back into the series, tie this up, take it to a game 3, and this lineup, it feels maybe a little bit better for them than what they had the last time around, but it's still going to be rough if Arkosh play anything even close to what we saw from them in that game 1 win.
Yeah, and really, I think the biggest question is how this Tiny is actually going to pan out. If he's able to snowball pretty heavily, or if he's going to be kind of caught behind the PO, which is where you never want to see yourself, because for all we know, we could see Ollie immediately go for the Blink Dagger, just be another hero to get into that backline. I think going for items like the Treads Blink would maybe be a little bit more potent as opposed to going for just the straight up farming Echo Saber build, because unfortunately, I don't think he has as much time to work with. And that's where he also needs to be incredibly careful, because anyone he combos, if they start getting healed up by that Solar Guardian, if he miscalculates his damage just a little bit, it's one of those heroes that you talk about a lot, especially in the old Tiny. Once you're in, you're in. You are trapped. You are not able to really escape like all of these other carries. And nice little sneak there at the bounty runes.
Grab one out, Flea. I mean, it was a nice attempt, but at a certain point, that's a 2v1. He's got to make sure he doesn't take too much damage. So, tried to stand on it with the Shadow Realm proc, but can't get it. So, 3 of the 4 go to Arkosh. That's not, massive, but it is a nice little advantage for them to start things off. And speaking of starting things off, we are going to look to the middle lane a little bit here. See if Ryoya is going to be able to put any sort of consistent pressure on to the Nature's Prophet, or if Monkey can sort of outplay the Queen of Pain. He did pretty well in the previous matchup, with the Brew going up against the Puck, holding his own, keeping the last hit count high. So between himself and the trees, Ryoya does have to maybe not be afraid of them, but at least show respect to that extra damage.
Yeah, and really the name of this lane is just the Queen of Pain getting bullied, getting hit up by the trees, especially once you get level 2 or 3 in that Nature's Call, then suddenly Ryoya isn't feeling comfortable trading with all of those units. At the same time, though, Monkey has to be very careful about getting his range creep denied. It's the one aspect of his hero that isn't too good. You do have to be very careful, because Ryoya can definitely try to outlane you there, and it's something that Ryoya's hero can do. It's what the Scream of Pain allows you, but you already see, as long as he's getting these kind of crazy trades going for him, Ryoya doesn't really have time in his skill build to go for maybe 2 or 3 points in the Shadow Strike. He's just going to get outpaced by the Treants, and that's going to be a pretty big problem for him. At the same time, got the 2 transits into the water rune, so Ryoya also needs to be careful. If he gets a little bit careless in his play, then suddenly he's got a lot less mana to work with.
And Ryoya, yeah, you see he's not even really going for the Shadow Strike at the moment. It's just going to be pretty much all in on the Scream. Meanwhile, up top, Crow managed to get a creep wave pulled back between the tower. It wasn't enough to actually get him level 2 yet, but there's still one creep trying to fight over the deny, but Empyrean doesn't want to get under the tower, and Crow is going to be able to pick that up. So here is where we get a bit of an advantage. We see this from the Dawnbreaker a lot. You hit that second level, you have that combo. All of a sudden, you can afford to be maybe a little bit more aggressive as continues trying to bull Empyrean out, and if the Bane is still only working on level 1, there's not quite as much defensive power here to protect Ollie, although it's a tiny. I don't really know how much protection he's going to need right now against a level 2 Spirit Breaker, but always nice to have the option if you're Arkosh, as we do have a pause, and I believe, yeah, Crow should be killing this courier, so more courier snipes out from Crow. He got 5 or 6 of them in game 1, and he's about to pick one up here.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Skull of Haste will not meet its target, but Empyrean also doing a really good job. He actually got a pull-off, something that it just felt so much more difficult for him to actually do on that Tide game, and I think really just being a little bit more normal, I think he's going to feel much more comfortable, and let's see if Crow even, yeah, tunnel visions a little bit, but he will be able to pull that creep wave. A nice combo, but at the same time, I think he's going to need to meet the creep waves here, otherwise he's going to eat a lot of damage.
He is going on to Empyrean, but Gremlo had already charged. He used it just a few moments ago to try to get onto Ollie, so they don't really have much here in the creep waves. Well, they'll meet eventually, but that's not nearly as advantageous a spot. It's close enough where the Tiny really can just get right in there and continue farming anyway, so... Not quite executed the way that they wanted, but they are looking to continue pushing, but there's that Nightmare. Crow's going to get sort of thrown down. Gremlo is still charging, though, and maybe Crow can get the angle through the trees. Yeah,
nice.
He's going to go for it. Empyrean will be taken down, and Gremlo gets first blood, so Crow doesn't give up on it. He knows just how far he can get with the hammer, and oh, get that courier out of there. Run. It's trying, but Crow, no, he's got it. Another courier snipe for him. Crow is just the bane of couriers in this game, or in this series, really.
Yeah. So it's the same ward as well. I wonder, Empyrean's heaping, I think he's finally got it. There we go. But still, so obnoxious. He's just done such a fantastic job of keeping these heroes down, especially killing it before anything got there. And Ollie is getting right-clicked by the Soul SP. And it's unfortunately this kind of situation where Empyrean, he had a salve on the courier. If he had a little bit more regen, he's able to get another salve over to the Tiny, but these trades, it still doesn't feel like they're going their way, and it's the unfortunate fact of the safe lane Tiny, still a 0 armor hero, trading up versus a very, very tanky Spirit Breaker, and it just feels like any of the poke that is being done just is not shutting Gremlo out. He's having another fantastic lane.
He's doing well, and now Crow, another pull, gets that creep wave in between the towers, so he's going to continue sort of building up his own levels on the Dawnbreaker, which is just going to facilitate more and more of that aggression in the lane. So Arkosh once again playing the top lane well. Meanwhile, back mid, just like last time, Monkey's holding his own. He's pretty much even in terms of the last hits with Ryoya. The question in this lane is which of these two is going to be able to get off, well, maybe not just more aggression in general, but this sort of successful ganks that we're going to need to see from both of them. Is Ryoya, he actually blinks forward to try and clean up some of these extra tree ends. That is going to cost a lot of health for him, though. And by a lot of health, I mean maybe all of his health. His blink's not up for one more second. He's going to be able to get out just barely, but that one didn't feel 100% worth it, ET.
No, I think he miscalculated a little bit there. Both of actually almost all of the trains were maybe 1 or 2 right clicks more. He was trying to do a good job of buttering them up, but just a little misplay like that, and suddenly you're out of bottle charges, and you're now gambling really hard on this 6-minute rune. Really surprised as well that none of the Arkosh supports kind of winked there at that attempt. I feel like maybe 1 or 2 TPs, and then suddenly that turns into an incredible throw from Ryoya, but he will try and stabilize here in 30 seconds, but unfortunately, Monkey hits 6, of course, same time, but with that Wrath of Nature, you always need to be careful on these side lanes, because you look at the trades going, and then suddenly, look at the Tiny, needs another salve, needs more regen coming in from the Bane.
Yep. It's that sort of global presence that Arkosh have sort of cultivated with a couple of their picks here, so right on cue, here's Monkey. TPs himself top, summons up some Treants, and, well, thought process of maybe we can't get kills in this scenario, but we can sure as hell try and push down this tier 1 and apply that pressure with the siege creep on their side. But Gremlo, well, he thought about it, went in for it, Ollie's able to cancel it, but now your Tiny is underneath the tower by himself. Empyrean's here to try and help, but needs to use that Nightmare pretty much perfectly, and right now, he doesn't have an actual target to throw it on. As Ryoya TP'd in, he's going to go for the Sonic Wave. It's a nice bit of damage. It's not enough for the kill, though. Now the Nether Strike from Gremlo. They're just trying to get Monkey out of here, and I don't think he makes it. Charge from Gremlo comes through for the disruption, but Ryoya is able to find the kill. But now here comes Crow into the fight with that hammer. They're going to be able to clean up Ryoya. Can they get Empyrean as well before Gremlo dies? Well, yes, they can, because Gremlo won't die. He survives just on the slimmest of HP bars there, and he will TP home. So, also your Nature's Prophet, but you get 3 kills across the board as they take down 2 cores as well as the Bane, and Siege Creep's still going onto this tower. I don't think it gets the tower, but that is a lot of damage being dealt, considering you had already won the team fight, and now Monkey's actually coming back in. They really do want this tier 1.
Yeah, and they're just playing perfect to tempo. They did almost the exact same thing, except around the 10-minute mark in the previous game. Just textbook Dota, and it's really unfortunate there with Ryoya's rotation. Of course, another rotation to the top tower defense that just ends up in his death. I'm not sure if Empyrean had a Mango there. He was just maybe 20 mana short of the Scream of Pain to get the clean kill onto the Nature's Prophet. They just survived way too long, and then another seamless rotation from Crow, who has just been very, very resourceful with all of his time. I feel like he's always in the right place at the right time. And a few too many deaths like that, we could see almost a repeat where Ryoya's game that is very stable, is very simple, just ends up getting outpaced and kind of outgamed. And yeah, arena bottom, Gremlo.
Trying for it. Gremlo's holding out for quite some time, though, and now the opportunity's passed.
Ridiculous.
Monster has to use the spear to get Crow away from himself, and, well, that's the first arena of the game coming out for pretty much no gain, so that would have been the first sort of major indicator for them in terms of trying to get aggressive. The aggression doesn't work out, and now all of a sudden, this Phantom Lancer's basically just going to push off of the lane entirely. You see him rotating mid for now, should be heading into the jungle relatively soon, so you didn't get that kill, you're not going to be able to pressure up the PL anytime soon, and now Ollie's actually going to get hit up here. They glimpse him back. Monkey is taking a hell of a lot of damage, though, as Ryoya rotates in, but Gremlo's still charging. One more hit should do it. No, not able to get it just yet. There it is. Momentarily put under there by that avalanche, but Gremlo still gets the kill. They will turn that into a trade. The Prophet going down is unfortunate, as he was the highest net worth hero at the time, but you continue to slow down this Tiny. Right now, you take a look at his net worth. He is so far down that list, ET, and well, his ability to catch up is going to be severely hindered if this pressure continues. Speaking of pressure, Gremlo, never mind. He was charging, he'll cancel it.
Gonna get a nice little bounty rune, though, a little consolation prize, but they are doing, I think, a little bit too well of a job at defending their towers here. Crow's getting all the levels he wants bottom. They aren't able to set up a kill because Ryoya keeps on having to play reactively towards that Nature's Prophet, and sure, he does get the return kill in that instance, but until you take out this bottom tower, we're not going to see that same squeeze onto mid that we keep on seeing Arkosh put their opponents under. And then, once Crow gets his level 6, anytime you're trading these ultimates, if you're not careful, then you're going to get punished. It's where that Sonic Wave dealing 340 damage is going to feel like a 100 damage nuke, and then suddenly a lot of these kills aren't going to get finished off, and that's where you look over at the PL, who is still steadfast working towards that Diffusal Blade, but absolutely no pressure. His jungle is completely safe right now. The only threat is having one of these big sweeping smoke rotations, and unfortunately for TOOBASED, they are still scrambling for levels on their supports. Another similar situation towards that previous game, where unfortunately they just don't have a good answer yet. They're kind of all inning on Monster and Ryoya, and we still need to see that big play here, especially around these 10-minute cards. This tower bottom's gotta die.
Need to bring it down, and well, that might actually kind of work in their favor. Ryoya just got glimpsed back to the base, so now he makes his way bot, whereas prior to that play, maybe he would have tried to stick it out mid a little bit more. So now they've got the numbers. The question is, can they actually make a play here? Because the Dawnbreaker has hit level 6, the Guardian is ready. Could buy some time for teammates to rejoin that fight if they do want to take it. Although that would kind of depend on them knowing that Ryoya and Flea are here. I'm not sure they were able to spot that out, but Seacrow already starting to back away while his teammates are looking to put a push on mid.
Yeah, and now they're in an incredibly hard, kind of a worthwhile XD, just because you killed the wave. Unfortunately for TOOBASED, they just don't go for that immediate jump. Monster isn't able to close the distance with the arena, and now you're already being put immediately under pressure by your opponents. So do you use another smoke and run mid, or do you end up going for this kind of bad trade and it feels like they're forced to almost, and they can't grip him?
Yeah.
It's too strong. Bulldoze. There you go. It's the reason why the hero is so popular. At least you get the tower denied here, but they're looking for the kill on the monster. If they lose him, that's just earth-shattering. And there's the
strike
combo.
in, Solar Guardian in, and Monkey snipes it out with the ult. So picture perfect. They get the push on the middle tower. They don't get the tower kill themselves, but tier 1 still falls. They force the rotation. They go bot for the kill. Their own tier 1 still standing. Not a crazy amount of HP, but everything is really sort of going their way. Look at Gremlo. He is feeling confident enough to just push onto Ryoya. Got himself a bash or two in there as well, and this is not what you want for TOOBASED. The heroes that are supposed to be a problem, the heroes that are supposed to be intimidating your opponents, Arkosh don't really seem to care right now.
Yeah, my concern is just the snowball is halting. You look at bottom and you say, unless we get a spear onto someone, you need the spear damage, they're going to walk out of it. They're not going to care. And with all these creep waves constantly getting pushed in, the play is spoiled. And now that you know that Monster's TP to the bottom lane, he needs a smoke to relocate mid or top to find a kill on, to ideally the Nature's Prophet or the Disruptor. But, oh, trying for the pick here. But they know Ryoya's blinked in.
Okay.
Nice. He's got blink.
Can he get out? Yeah, he can. Okay, but the charge is still coming. Gremlo, how long can he hold his opponent here? There's no nether, so the answer is no time at all. He just has to back away. Well, it was worth a shot, just in case. Maybe you bait that Queen of Pain into overcommitting for a secondary engagement, but with the ult down, they weren't going to be able to make too much happen there. And TOOBASED, those are the kind of trades that they need to make. Ryoya's got to get more involved. Got to, at this point, basically lead his team, because the timing's just not ready to go yet.
No, it's not. And you look over at the dire triangle and you see how many stacks they've prepared. They've tried to set him up as much as they can, but then you look over bottom at the solo push from Monster with Flea sitting behind him, and it just feels like they're still playing maybe a step behind their opponents here. And Ryoya, he's menacing, but they
I don't know if
know
he'll
he
be
doesn't
here.
have
Silence
damage.
comes out. The Orchid was completed. And this Queen of Pain, what can they do? Empyrean comes in. That's a very nice grip onto the Prophet. That takes a lot of that damage out. Is it going to be enough, though? As of right now, got Ryoya out, so that's nice. But they lose Empyrean and power shot. Not enough to kill Crow. So this is where you get a little bit potentially greedy if you're Arkosh, but it looks like they're just trying to keep everybody out of here, although Forsaken Oracle does get caught. He was able to get the glimpse off, but that was only half the problem. He has to deal with Ollie instead. He will be taken down, but now look at Balehorse getting into the fight. He's going to throw down the Terrorize, but it's dodged by the Doppelganger. That does mean, however, that Balehorse can't continue pushing for the kill, but, well, we talked about it in Game 1. Using those ults defensively for TOOBASED over and over again sort of sapped away their momentum, and it may have been a similar story there, but at least they got the kill onto the Disruptor.
Yeah, and they will get started a little bit here. You see the trees coming in, trying to be a nuisance on the Ancient stack here. And actually, Monkey is... Oh, is that a misclick? There's a blink in a few seconds here. He's got TP, but... Okay, the hunt's on.
I don't know how well this is going to go for him. Yeah, well, there's the Nightmare, and maybe that was a misclick. Either way, though, it puts Monkey in a horrible position, and he does get spotted out and eventually taken down. All the while, Ollie was just sort of continuing it to take that stack, so Arkosh given a little bit back there in unnecessary play as well. Monkey really did not have much to do there outside of maybe trying to steal a couple of last hits, but the cost if that play goes south, as it just did, is incredibly high.
Yeah, your MP gets off the map for, what, 35 seconds? Suddenly you don't have a lot of that pressure on the map still. The nice thing about the Spirit Breaker here is you're kind of a pseudo Nature's Prophet, and they're going for this kill into Ollie, and I think they might just get it. Needs a little bit more damage, though.
Gremlo is taking a beating here, but he will live, but Ryoya wants in, looking for the kill, able to get it before he's glimpsed back. But they need more. There it is. They get the arena down, the Spear Stun will be there, and there's really nothing Forsaken Oracle can do. There is going to be a defensive play out, though, from Crow. Nice Solar Guardian into the fight. They're going to try to turn, as Flea will be dropped, but Monkey was put under by the Nightmare. Empyrean doesn't have the damage just yet, but he is going to be able to get off the ult. That locks Nature's Prophet down, and now Monster's back into the fight. He connects with the Spear. Crow, locked down, no mana, starting to run out of health as well, but It's got to wait a little while longer for monsters.
Ooh.
Ooh, okay, that's not
They
the
got
matter.
it.
They still have it, but little bit of a miss on the coordination, but who cares? Monster gets the double, and oh no, oh god, he wants even more. Can he actually do this without the arena, though? No, doesn't have anything to pin Forsaken Oracle to.
Yeah, and it's a little bit greedy, especially with that kill on a Gremlo. You're going to give up your ward most likely here, and Imperium's going to deward it in just a few seconds. But that is the nightmare situation for your NP. You die randomly on the map somewhere, you immediately TP in, trying to do something with your Orchid, you die again, and I think that's where we might see Arkosh kind of be forced to wait for a few of these items here. Of course, the defusal has been completed on the Phantom Lancer. BKB is next up for the NP, and then you're really going to feel a lot more confident standing up in these fights. But that's where if TOOBASED can thread the needle a little bit here, find maybe 1 or 2 more picks specifically onto Monkey, you're just going to slow him down so much. And that's where you might actually be able to start catching up to this PL a little bit with your Tiny. And I think that's where Ollie will definitely try to get a little bit more active here. We're still seeing Pale Horse really focus in on these creeps.
Look at this rotation. They are moving their way up, looking for Monkey.
Oh, they got him.
Yep. First Crown's going to come in first. That TP will not complete. It was close. Not quite close enough. Big rotation, 4 heroes up there, but you take the Nature's Prophet, get him off the map. All of a sudden, that opens up more, as we saw just a few moments ago. And yeah, as soon as they confirm the kill, they're going to smoke up and look to push their way out. If they move all the way down south, you've got Pale Horse and Oracle hanging out here. This is not an easy crossing to make, though, with the tier 1 still standing. So yeah, they're not really even going to go for it. They move on to the high ground. There's nothing here. Empyrean, he's got sentries but no obs wards. That's unfortunate, but clearing out the map a little bit, just trying to create some space. If anyone comes close, obviously they will go for the kill, but Arkosh, as of right now, not taking that bait.
Yeah, and I think the reason they go for that immediate smoke after their smoke, they just use so little to get that kill on the NP. And we're finally seeing Arkosh getting on the aggressive a little bit here. This is a really nice bait on this ward, but yeah, really good scan. Now it's going to be an Invis Disruptor trying to find the play here. But at the same time, do you walk up this high ground? It's a little bit scary.
Low charges. They're going to try and take Flea down first. They do get him, and now Empyrean, he's out in the cold. There's no one here to help him, so... Well, on the one hand, that's your supports tanking that gank. That's probably the better case scenario, but still unfortunate that you lose both, because now you see Arkosh. They're going to push their way straight into the Roche pit, knowing that they have that numbers advantage. Those heroes are not going to be up in time to contest this.
No, definitely not, and unfortunately, you're giving up quite a lot now, and with an Aegis most likely going over to the Phantom Lancer, he is really going to just be able to do whatever he wants. He was already most likely going to get his Manta style before the Aghanim Shard is even purchasable on that Queen of Pain, but unfortunately, he just has even more of a buffer now, and we might see that top tier 2 now kind of be forfeited, just so that way you kind of avoid a death here. And well, that's a crazy charge, but you bulldoze your invis, but fight.
Monkey comes in, they drop the silence down. Ryoya's in some trouble. He's not going to get reinforcements, though, because the rest of the team was engaged further to the north, but they're able to hold the line. Monster sort of acts as that front line. They get the Terrorize out there, so both halves of the squad get split up, but manage to get away. They find the kill into the Disruptor, and well, that's probably the best case scenario there. That is a pretty aggressive push forward from the side of Arkosh that TOOBASED are both able to survive and come ahead with a kill from. So looking pretty good there. Flea, yeah, he is going to get sacrificed a little bit, but Ollie, he wants to play down bot. He's looking for Monkey. Trying to get in. Ryoya is going to be here to help out with the Scream, and okay, they get it. Silence did come out onto the Tiny, but not even close to helpful enough to keep him alive, and now they want even more. Monster just caught out Crow in that middle lane. There's going to be another TP in, and the Dawnbreaker should not be getting away from this one. He's just going to have to try and do any damage before he dies, but is not going to be enough. Ryoya picks up the double kill, but Gremlo and Forsaken Oracle on the offensive, excuse me, in the river as they take down Empyrean.
Yeah, it really is a game of Spirit Breaker picking off your supports constantly, and you trying to find the Nature's Prophet because he's the easiest core to actually take out. Because the Spirit Breaker, unfortunately, even though he doesn't have a BKB or anything in the works, is just not a target. He's just not someone you can actually kill, unfortunately, for TOOBASED. So the name of the game is really just avoiding him and trying to find these little pickoffs, because it is boosting this Tiny just a little bit further. Once he has this Silver Edge, then I can actually see him trying to fight up versus heroes like the PL, like the Spirit Breaker a little bit more. Just needs anything in terms of damage, but unfortunately, he is all Magic Burst right now, and a lot of these heroes are just getting out of that HP pool, especially looking over at Crow, who is almost really at his Aghanim Scepter, and then suddenly you've got the evasion element to work with. Suddenly your main right-clicking core just doesn't do damage, and it's another item down the pipeline that he needs to go for, especially how late this BKB is going to be coming in from the Tiny, going for this build-up, but he needs this Silver Edge, otherwise he just doesn't do damage. It's just a really tight rope that he's going to be walking here, and they're looking for another glimpse play, but looks like they finally kind of navigate out of the smoke on TOOBASED side. They might even counter smoke in a few seconds here.
Oh, Gremlo. He's going to be able to get away before that Chris Crown can really do much of anything, and he had the bulldoze there for the last little moment, so Chris Crown's stun doesn't even last all that long, but we are starting to see some of those items coming into play. Ryoya finished off the Lincoln Sphere, Monster's got his BKB, so a little bit more in the way of durability and defensive power for these fights, and they want the fight right away. Oracle, though, that's a nice position there. He's just going to... Oh! Threw down the static, and Ryoya wasn't actually caught in it, so now they're going to turn. Forsaken Oracle immediately getting jumped on. They'll blow him up. Can they go after Pale Horse as well? Monster was thinking about it. The blink is back up, but you already used the arena to go after the first kill, so you don't really have that guaranteed location to pin him to. They are still looking for it, though. Pale Horse just trying to dance a little bit, maybe wait for some reinforcements, but... well, who is coming? The Spirit Breaker's already sort of engaged at the moment, but Pale Horse wants in his... well, Zeta still has a minute 30 on it, so he can afford to fight. He's going to go straight in on the Flea. They will find the kill, and now here comes the Dawnbreaker into the fight. They're looking for Empyrean as well, just cutting off those supports at the knees, but Pale Horse does get dropped down, but Aegis is going to get him back into the fight. So while he's respawning, they'll clean up Gremlo and Crow. They're trying to get onto Monkey now as well, hoping to just really leave this Phantom Lancer all alone, but of all the heroes looking for a 1v5, Phantom Lancer certainly one who can pull it off, but Pale Horse doesn't want to go back in just yet, but Oracle's coming up from behind. He doesn't have the static, however. This is going to get a little bit dicey for him, and now he's by himself. Ryoya's just going to take this 1v1, and Oracle cannot possibly win this. He's just dead.
Yeah, that is a really ugly fight. I mean, a full man wipe if you consider Pale Horse losing his Aegis as another death, and I think they really got ahead of themselves. I think TOOBASED, they had that beautiful Avatos combo onto 3 heroes. Ollie was cleaving off of absolutely everyone, and unfortunately for Arkosh, the heal didn't really feel like it was coming through. It felt like Crow was just another target, and they go, I think, 500 gold before his Aghanim Scepter would have been completed. I think then maybe this Tiny doesn't do nearly as much damage. You survive a little bit longer, but then even looking over at Monkey, he had either a BKB or just completed his BKB, and it was not used in that fight. So something clearly went wrong. They're clearly expecting to survive a little bit longer there. Now, Gremlo, look at that.
Nice little two-man game. Ollie and Monster put it together. So you mentioned earlier it's just so hard to kill the Spirit Breaker, but if you have that much lockdown you can chain together, well, and obviously the Spirit Breaker is alone, that becomes much more doable for them. And now that's a Spirit Breaker off the map for quite some time, so you don't have to worry about him charging in. You see Monkey immediately getting pressured out of the bottom lane, and this is an opportunity to take a tier 2 tower. They should be able to get this with really no resistance.
Yeah, and that's where, unfortunately, TOOBASED have just done a really good job of biding their time. Supports are still struggling on their side, but you look at the cores now, and they have just found the picks they've needed to keep their head above water. They aren't the most farmed, but suddenly everyone just has a good game. They have the items they need, and it's where rushing, and this technically is a rush of the BKB from Monkey. You need it, but anytime this is going to be committed now, you're not going to see Nature's Prophet in these fights. As soon as those 9-8 seconds are over, you suddenly can't show your face, and we might see a really ugly game play out for them now. The best thing they have going for them, actually, is just this Aegis not being available, and they're hunting for PL. He didn't get up! Oh no.
Oh, they've got the Fiend's Grip onto him now as well. They know this is the real one. They're just going to hack away at him. And they've got enough damage. And while that was happening, Flea actually kept the chase up onto Crow. Well, that's a bit unfortunate. They will miss that spell, but it cancels the TP, so it all works out. Monkey gets killed off down in the bottom lane, and I mean, momentum is not shifting at this point. It has shifted. TOOBASED just really seem to have established some control here, and Arkosh that's the problem. All it takes is maybe one or two of their overextensions, and as you were saying before, all of a sudden every core on the 2-base side is having a pretty fantastic time.
No, it is a valley now, and unfortunately for Arkosh, you just don't have the items. You need this heart. You need another item on top of this BKB, and okay, Gremlo, you're trying to do these solo plays now, but these supports, they have Yule Scepters, they have levels, and you're not even finding the same level of aggressiveness working out on his side either. And he had these components, I want to say 5 minutes ago, these exact same components. He really stalled out these past two fights looking for his Aghanim Scepter. Everyone just needs to hunker down and I think finish off a few of these items before they go for another engagement, because these fights are really turning up ugly for them. They're just getting picked apart at the seams.
Yeah, especially considering Pale Horse. Progress towards this heart has been slowed up rather significantly with that previous death. It was his first death of the game, at least, but you need these items on all of your cores, but the PL in particular. This is your sort of 1v5 hero. If Pale Horse can be ganged up on, caught out alone, and taken down like that, then you don't really have a whole lot to work with. Of course, you could probably count on one hand the number of times you're going to be able to actually get the PL alone like that moving forward, but even one or two instances could be enough, as Ryoya, feeling a little bit aggressive, jumps forward. Forsaken Oracle has to throw out the static, and it keeps him alive, but now that's Static Storm down for 70, so could open up a potential opportunity for two-based, although with how many heroes are hanging out together in this west side jungle area, I'm not really sure they're going to get the avenue into the fight that they would want right now.
No, I think everybody is just frozen in place a little bit here about that Roche timer. Of course, Arkosh scouted out. They do realize it's going to be the longest possible timer, which is a little bit unfortunate for two-based. You definitely want to run in there immediately, get this tiny in Aegis so you can start poking your head at that high ground. And now that Ollie has a Blink Dagger, anyone is a target. He's already solo killing pretty much everyone now, aside from that PL, who will still take an absolute chunk of damage. I think the biggest thing for Arkosh execution-wise now is they need to find a way to kite and catch out this Tiny as soon as he blinks in. As soon as he overextends, they need to cage the beast. Otherwise, I think the snowball, I mean, it's already started to roll, but the smoke feels a little bit desperate from them. They're trying to get any control around the pit, and something that this vision is definitely doing for them, but I think this is going to be another whiff. I think the migration that two-base made towards this bottom lane has just been a little bit too fruitful, and look at all these creeps that Ollie's about to farm here. Gonna feel real nice in a sec.
Just to line it up. Also trying to make sure there's some sort of confirmed vision somewhere on the map. Once they realize there's not 5 heroes sitting in the woods, cleans all that up. Nice chunk of change, and Arkosh, they're still up here. That's a nice ward that they put down, and it does get them eyes on Monster, so they will go in and should be able to get this kill. The reinforcements are TPing in, but Monster holding his ground, pops the BKB, pops the arena. They go in for that wave, and now, well, you see Crow. Actually, he got the ult off. Not really sure it's going to be enough, though. They're still starting to lose heroes. Crow's dropped low, Gremlo as well. They did get Flea in exchange, but they need more, and now they're getting it. Here comes Pale Horse into the fight. Ryoya dropped low, not finished off as he was able to blink out, so they'll turn their attention onto Monster instead. Now they've got Ollie trapped up inside, but that bought time for Ryoya to rejoin the fight. Goes in to pick off one. Now Pale Horse, can he actually do this? He is fighting pretty damn hard here. Ryoya's trying to get him down, but with that heart, he just keeps on regenning. Ryoya doesn't have anything to work with. Eventually he gets the kill, just with the right clicks and the stubbornness. But now, Monkey, he wants to go in. He's got the silence back up, but I'm not sure he's confident enough in his own damage to get that kill in time. So Ryoya will survive, and two-base will get the win in that team fight, at least by body count. In terms of gold, Arkosh actually came away with a little bit more, but it's two-base sort of holding the line in that top lane.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you do lose the Tiny. Oh, Monkey. Is this the solo kill?
Will he get the
Feels
TP
like a solo
off?
kill. Oh, please. Well, you hate to see it, but he wanted every tick of damage there. I think if that Shadow Realm connects, looks even closer, but that's an unfortunate circumstance where you don't have the shard, you don't have the fast crown, so you don't get the kill, but at the same time, I think that team fight is just kind of showing you that they have to be so careful. They have to be really cautious with their kinetic fields, with their sprouts. They need to keep Ollie out of these engagements, because if he's just simply able to fight versus the PL, Pale Horse had to trade all of his HP there just to make the fight even close with the Tiny. And then he gets cleaned up by the Shiva's Guard Plop, and there's nothing he can really do about that post Manta. He just doesn't have another Dispel, nor does he have one, I think, being built up by any of his allies. No Lotus Orb, no Yule Sever, no nothing to help him in these situations. So once Solar Guardian's spent, once Manta's spent, he needs to be so careful with his positioning and where he's actually showing. And here we go with the vision laid down. This is a very smart smoke from Arkosh. This is going to catch anyone on 2-based off guard here, but they don't want Empyrean. Well, they want something else, but
Ryoya's there. They could bait him into the fight. There's the static down. They've got him trapped up. And I do not believe Ryoya's getting out of this one. Crow even comes in with the Solar Guardian just to make sure that is the secondary kill that they needed. They use Empyrean as really bait for his own team. Very rarely do you see that play sort of actually work, but Ryoya thought, I can get in there, maybe provide a little bit of backup, get my support out of there safely, but very much not the case. And now if you're Arkosh, you've opened up quite a bit of the map as Roshan respawning. They're going to go straight in for it.
Yeah, and it's why they smoked, because they have this play that they could just immediately go for. And I feel like Ryoya just didn't understand the scope of that fight. I think he thought, oh, Gremlo's just poking at my supports like he's been doing all game, and then suddenly just gets clipped by the Static Storm. It's a really sad way to go down, because, again, they're strong. They're able to fight this Aegis. There's a full Satanic on Ollie. I mean, the Tiny can actually just sit there and beat into anyone, and it's more ground that you are just forced to give up, unfortunately. And that's where I think once Pale Horse gets the Scotty, that's going to be the game changer. That's where suddenly you can't just sit there and hit him forever. And with this Aegis, it's even more impossible. Even Forsaken Oracle just taking the tower by himself there, because he can. He's got the power. I think that's where we might see the map close in just a little bit more around 2-based with how global the Spirit Breaker and the NP can be. Arkosh can finally play what their draft's good at just a little bit more now.
Yeah. And Spirit Breaker, that is even more obnoxious because he was the one to pick up the shard from Roshan, so he's got that Nether Strike upgrade. This is the dream scenario. This is basically the perfect Spirit Breaker play. He can charge wherever he wants. He's got both of the Hags upgrades. He is so unbelievably obnoxious, and now there's even fewer ways for 2-based to cancel his combo or even avoid it in the first place. So, well, as I say that, he does sort of run directly into Ryoya, but he's just able to walk away. The Spirit Breaker can just sort of go where he wants, and there's not a whole lot in the way of immediate consequences.
No, you can just continue doing what the Spirit Breaker does best, be incredibly annoying, and now the only thing that can really stop him is the grip, but, oh, barely.
A blink from Ollie to get himself out of that one. But Monster, okay. They're going to go in, they're looking for Forsaken Oracle. That is a nice attempt from Crow, but well, it's just not going to be enough, and now he's kind of stuck in the fight. Yeah, that... If that does keep Oracle alive, maybe they can make something happen. Maybe Pale Horse commits to the engagement, but once you know the Disruptor's dead before your Dawnbreaker is landed, that's kind of a broken play, and they end up sacrificing both heroes.
Yeah, and that there's the funny thing about Dawnbreaker Ags. The sound stops, the visual stops, but she's still coming. And then she falls out of the sky, and you get a freebie. And now, well, we forfeit, again, the map a little bit. We keep on seeing these key picks that both of these teams are very consistently finding. It makes this game feel really even though I think Ollie has just continuously gained more and more strength. He's still an absolute terrifying force. And now, unfortunately for Monkey, guys, BKB force, but does Gremlo get this kill? Looks like it. Brutal.
Ryoya, he has no cancel on that, so Gremlo is simply able to get away, and well, there's that Aghanim Shard sort of coming into play there. With the Nether Strike, he had that little bit of immunity, so even if the Willow had an opening, well, no, you didn't. There really wasn't anything to be done. As Monkey, that's a very angry rock. He is going to get right on top of him, but now Ollie, he's stuck in the Static Storm. There's a lot of damage coming out here. Empyrean is already going down. Monster was able to pop the BKB, but that doesn't protect the Tiny. Ollie will be picked off, and I don't really know if Ryoya wants back into this fight. He is going to blink his way to the other side of the river. That's enough to take Monkey down, but just the one real sort of secondary pickoff there. They get the Disruptor, they get the Nature's Prophet, but everyone other than Ryoya dies, and now Ryoya's got to be a little bit careful here as well. If he gets spotted out, could still try to make a play for him. So he has to try and get past them. He will do so successfully, and now He's just going to cut the wave. But you cut the wave, the tower still goes down. I don't think they can go for the high ground now, but you weren't really able to save that structure, and that is definitely a lost fight for TOOBASED.
Yeah, and you see immediately after, goes for the pickup, and Crow, oh, he's getting low here, but Rioya doesn't have a TP cancel, and yeah, Gremlo is just an absolute nuisance. He's almost going to be 25 as well. Once you get Aghanim Scepter, Shadow Blade, and that level 20 talent, suddenly this hero is the monster we all know it to be. And at the same time, you look over at Ollie, the man who has been kind of just carrying this game on his back for a while now, queues up the BKB. It's just impossible. If he ever gets clipped by that stack storm, it's just over. Lights out. And Rioya, he's got 25.
Lincolns. Horse gets the vision. Can they get the charge? Lincoln's... Actually, it's both... I think it's... Yeah, Lincoln's and he has spell block, so... A lot of defensive capabilities there for Rioya, but the attack is still coming. That's going to force out the BKB, but now Pale Horse is into the fight. Empyrean, he does cancel his own Fiend Script there once he realizes that the PL is in position, but they have to take this. They have to try and fight it, but Rioya now going to get trapped up inside the Static Storm, stunned up, locked down, finished off before the TPs come. And I'm not sure they want these TPs to complete. Monster's still into the fight, but how much can they really do here? They're just dropping like flies as Flea gets picked off. Gremlo still not dying on the other side, and it's just an absolute disaster. They take that fight without their primary damage dealer in the Tiny, and there's kind of a reason why you want Ollie in that engagement. They take it without him, and they get nothing.
Yeah, and he even TP's there. He was there to a certain degree, but it's just a little bit too late. If he's there and maybe alive just 10 seconds sooner, it's the reason why Arkosh go for that dive, is because there isn't any response on that grip. You lost all of your mana, and then Gremlo doesn't die because another great Static Storm cast by Forsaken Oracle. Again, the man is just not skipping a beat on this Disruptor. He just continuously finds these heroes without BKB in the breakneck moment, and then he gets the free kill. And look at how aggressive he is. He's running at the tier 4s again, and
God,
he got the glimpse.
Ollie's pulled back. Charge is coming in. Pale Horse wants the damage. The silence now out as well. They're going to actually pick up the supports first. Smart move. Take down Empyrean right away, and all of a sudden your Tiny has no backup. He's just going to get hacked away at. He is trying to fight with the lifesteal from the Satanic. It keeps him alive for a little while as Rioya gets onto the backline. Nice wave, but it's not enough. Ollie gets taken down, and Ollie, he actually doesn't have buyback. He doesn't have enough money for it, so he's out of the fight. And this may just be the end of it. They're going to start picking him off. They're trying to get onto Rioya, but he's going to successfully run over to the tower. And at this point, I'm not sure what Arkosh are doing. They picked off Empyrean again. Pale Horse is hanging out near their actual fountain. They've already taken the middle lane of Rax. They could go for the tier 4s. They could rotate top as well, but they're still just kind of hanging out, establishing dominance, forcing out what buybacks remain from TOOBASED, and it's kind of setting up shop. They refuse to leave. Pale Horse is now finally going to turn his attention to those, to those towers. Where Rioya, he goes in, he immediately gets hit by the charge of the BKB. Not enough to protect him for now, but Flea, that is a clutch terrorize coming in. They'll take down Monkey. Gremlo dropped low and finished off as well. That buys Rioya the time to retreat, but now Flea, well, he may have just sacrificed his life for that play. Yes, he has. Pale Horse takes him down, and can he get back in? Yes, he can. Buyback is going to be there, but once again, it's Flea and Rioya against the world here. Can they pull this off? Rioya wants the back line. He'll take down Forsaken Oracle as quickly as he can, but they still need to deal with this Phantom Lancer ET. They're just kind of avoiding him for now, but he's taking tier 4s.
And they're going to try and kite him, but if any charge connects, and here it comes, and it's over. There's going to be another hero dead, and unfortunately, I think they are going to run a Gauss here. They need the Tiny in 15, and I think the Ancient might just be dead a little bit too quick. Rioya just doesn't have anything.
He's going to give it a go because he really doesn't have much of a choice, pushing his way forward. Empyrean coming in to try and help out. Defensive Nightmare comes through. Now they're going to throw down the Fiend's Grip onto Crow, and Rioya was able to escape. That's neat, but Ancient's dying, boys. They're not going to be able to defend it. Ollie does try to get in there at the last second, but it's just not going to be enough, as Arkosh, not quite the same dominant performance this time around compared to Game 1, but at the end of the day, they get the job done.
No, they definitely hit a stumble. TOOBASED hit their stride a little bit. They find a few pickoffs here and there. I think the stat line I was looking at that moment of the game is Monkey was 3, 7, and 10, something like that. He just had died 4 times in a row, and suddenly your game looks pretty bad after you die 4 times in a row. But aside from that, you still had the backbone of the team. You had Pale Horse continuously finding the farm. I think really the big moment in this game is whenever Ollie trades his life top. They don't really get anything after the fact. Monkey gets to reset the lanes, and then Ollie goes back bottom, finishes a Satanic, and they aren't immediately able to press the issue. If they're able to fight for that second Roche, I think we're looking at a much different game. But when Ryue and Empyrean go down in the top jungle, you just have to give it up unless you immediately buy back and then force yourself into this awful situation. You just lose what felt like, and what it literally was, a 6K gold lead for TOOBASED that they got through their smart picks. It just feels like their one moment where they finally got their head above water, just wasn't able to push it. And then you get ahead of yourself, you get greedy with your item choices, you get a Satanic instead of a BKB, and then suddenly you die to Static Storm. It's the same story with Ryue in the top lane. I think on BKB, just one item sooner on pretty much everyone on the TOOBASED side, we would have looked at a much safer game, maybe a few moments that wouldn't have happened that kind of spelled their defeat. But at the same time, Arkosh, it's not the same Arkosh like you said in game one, but still much better, much more concise. Gremlo was the one who really carried the weight in this game when Monkey kind of dropped the ball for a second. But this team, I mean, you wouldn't say that Arkosh Div 2 was going to take a game off the TOOBASED, especially with how DPC turned out, but they completely proved everyone wrong.
This was, by and large, a performance that far exceeded the expectations, which, I mean, it is kind of a dig at Arkosh, but their Pro Circuit performance was not great. We were sort of expecting more of the same. Instead, you get Forsaken Oracle on the back-to-back Disruptor matches doing unbelievable amounts of work. Gremlo, as we said, 12, 5, and 17 on his Spirit Breaker is massive. And Pale Horse, in this series, a combined 23 kills, 2 deaths. That's it. So, talked about him needing to be efficient, needing to have that space made for him to find success, and Arkosh were able to do really everything they needed to. Meanwhile, on the other side for TOOBASED, Ryoya still racks up a 23-8 stat line, so he was really doing everything he could. It's just, at the end of the day, it wasn't quite enough to pull his team back into it.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you give Ryue his top 3. You give him a Kunkka, you give him a Queen of Pain, and you give him a Storm Spear, and then suddenly it starts to get a little bit closer, but just didn't end up being enough. Couldn't 1v9. Man, what a sad game, but at the same time, gotta see what Arkosh do next. It's always the next opponent now because they are upper.
Yeah, Arkosh will now be moving to the upper bracket finals, so they've got a shot to punch their ticket to Phase 2 in the coming days. They will be waiting to see who their opponent is, and that opponent is going to be determined in our next series. We're keeping it in NA here. We've got the Cut taking on Team Dog Champ. So we started with a couple of teams from D1. Now we're going to move on to some of those D2 squads. Of course, the Cut and Dog Champ, the top 2 teams in Division 2. So that matchup should be pretty damn good, and we'll see who comes out on top, who rises up to face Arkosh in that upper bracket final. So I believe we're already sort of getting the teams corralled in for that one. We're just going to be sort of rolling on through to that next best of 3. So congratulations to Arkosh, commiserations to TOOBASED. We will be seeing both of them later on in the event, but for now, it is time to move on. So we'll be stepping away for just about 10 minutes here, and when we come back, it'll be game 1 between the Cut and Dog Champ.